Hi, everyone. I want to say thank you and Happy New Year from Juice Plus. It's been an amazing 2024. Now, moving into 2025, I think all of you who have been through 2024, you know that we've had some challenges. You know that there's been things going on, and many of you still thrived. And that's why I always say, let's thrive in 2025 as we think about this new year. Now, this video, as you know, Curt Beavers is putting this together. It's the best year ever as we think about what we're doing for the new year. And I have a special message for you as we think about how we move forward, things that we're doing in our own lives to improve, things that we're going to be doing to move forward in our business, or maybe in our personal lives as far as how we're moving forward to become healthier. You know, recently we were Juice Plus posted some of the top things, and I have it right in front of me, some of the top things as far as what people are trying to accomplish in 2025. And these are some of the most common goals for the new year: exercise more, eat healthier, save more money, spend more time with family and friends. I think we can all agree that that's an important piece of our lives. And many of us are so busy, sometimes we forget about that. And we have to take time to spend time with family. Another one is learn a new skill or hobby. And I think that's important. And I know some of you, many of you I've talked with, have been thinking about new things, new opportunities, new hobbies. Cut down on drinking. As far as those who do, yes, cut down on drinking. Make sure that you stay healthy. The next one, volunteer, and the final one, pursue a career ambition. Those are some of the common goals that people have for the new year. And like you and I, we all have these New Year's resolutions as far as what we're going to do. And I think this is what's so great about this time of year, where we sit down with friends and family, we sit down to maybe for reflect, maybe we have a few minutes to think about our lives. Maybe it's sitting on the couch watching that movie, or you're watching the sports, or your husband or spouse is watching the sports, and you're thinking about, all the things that are going on in the world, and you're saying, okay, well, how can I change? How can I move forward? Or what are the things that I'm doing to improve? And those times are precious. Those times are where we sit down and say, okay, how can I change my life? How can I do the things that I want to be doing and move more? Now, this message here is to talk with you about some things that have been on my heart as far as how we're moving forward. A number of years ago, our family started coming together, and my wife's family is very, very big on getting together. And I learned a lot. I've learned a lot from her family as far as traditions. And when I think about traditions and I think about people coming together, their family has been very, very, very strong. And years ago, we made a commitment that we were going to host New Year's, or excuse me, Christmas Eve, where our family came together and we were hosting dinner. Well, that has now grown, and it's almost too much for us. But every year we're saying we're not going to do it, and then we jump in and say we're going to do it because it's a tradition, and we know that with those traditions a lot of memories are built, a lot of memories, and you look back and you're like, oh, I remember when. And those traditions are so important because they not only bring good memories, they bring memories of being together with family and loved ones. And that changes over years. Sometimes we have people who are not able to attend, or they pass away, and you always cherish those traditions. We've also years ago, we in addition to the Christmas Eve, we also set up a tradition where on New Year's Eve we have a themed party, from 80s white party, gold party, all American. We have a Western theme. Over the years, every New Year's Eve, we have a tradition where we come together, and that's just been important for us. And when I think of traditions and I think about, how we're moving forward and what we're doing in our own lives, I think traditions are like habits. Traditions are create memories. They create this opportunity for us to connect with people, and same with habits. And when you think about those New Year's resolutions, a lot of people don't ever complete their habits because they're not in it. They don't know. They don't create those memories. They don't create those habits of moving forward. And I think that's important for us. But how do you do it? How do you keep moving forward with these habits and going after your goals? For me, I think one of the key things is around these daily habits of what we're doing in order to accomplish those goals. What are we doing each day? Years ago, someone mentioned to me to say, "Hey, listen, what's your daily routine, Travis?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And this was a leader that I looked up to, and he said, "Listen, what is your daily routine on how you're starting your day?" And I said, well, I wake up and sometimes I work out, sometimes I do this. And for years, for years since that conversation, and he reminded me of that, there's a routine that I've gotten into where I wake up in the morning. That's early morning. I drink a full glass of water. I go work out. I come back and I meditate or pray. And then I have an opportunity to clear my mind, and then I'm off and working. And believe me, like you and like many others around the world, it hasn't been perfect. There's times where I'm traveling around the world and I break the habit. Uh, but for the most part, that has helped me through my life is creating this habit, this tradition of us moving forward. And I think that's important for us to say, how are we creating these habits, these traditions that create memories for us to move forward? And in our businesses and in our lives, and we think about this best year ever, when I think about that, it's a creating traditions, these habits of moving forward. One of the things that I think about when I think about these traditions and habits, what do we do? How do we move ourselves forward with these habits? What are some areas that I think that could help you, that have helped me? And I'm gonna break it down to the simplest of terms, and you can remember this ABC. If you think about creating habits, you think about creating memories, it's about ABC. And A for me stands for attitude. And you can talk about all of these goals as far as losing weight, limit your drinking or stop drinking, or you want to have a new financial goal. You can't get there unless you have a good attitude. There's just no doubt about it. And attitude is really, I think, the emphasis of what's going to help you get there to push you through, and that's important. Attitude as far as what you're feeling for the day, or how you're going to change your attitude for that day, how you interact with other people. It's going to be so important for you to keep in mind to making your best year ever. Now, one of the things that years ago, I was in Malaysia. I was on a business trip, and I was working out, and I was trying to stay consistent. Even though you were across the world, you're trying to stay. I was trying to stay consistent. I thought, well, I'm gonna go down to the front lobby there, and I'm gonna ask the concierge there, where to run, what's a good path. So I went down there, and I wasn't very familiar with the area. I wasn't very familiar with the city, but I wanted to experience this new city. I wanted to have a good attitude. And so I went down, I started talking to the concierge, and I said, "Hey, listen, what's a good map of where I can run? And this is how far I'm trying to run." And he looks at the map and he starts saying, "Well, maybe you don't want to go over here. Maybe you start over here." And then I started to get worried. I was like, "Wait, what do you mean I don't want to go over here?" And he's like, "Well, no, no, you wanna hit right here, and then you can go around here." And then I was like, "Well, maybe I don't want to go out there and run." And he's like, "Oh, no, 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 you go, you got it." And he had this attitude of like, "No, no, you can do it." And so I felt inspired. I'm like, "All right." And I was walking out the door slid open, and I'm walking out the door. I look back and I said, "Hey, hey, is it safe to run here?" I had to ask the question. And he says, "Oh, yes, very safe, Travis." He says, "The faster you run, the safer it is." And I start laughing, and I was like, what an attitude. I thought it was hilarious. And I said, "You know what? I'm going to go do it." It turned out to be a great run. But I just reflect on that. And it's a memory that I have of this person who had a positive attitude. And I think of this, and I think about, people who have this positive attitude. Many of our leaders in our business have real positive attitudes. Not all the time. We know that. But if you're going to go after one of these New Year's resolutions, if you're going to move yourself forward and really go after it this year, regardless of all the challenges that are going on, like me, we're going to have a positive attitude. And one of my favorite quotes, it's sitting right in my office here, and I hang it here in the house because I want my family, I want us all to think about this because we all have to have attitudes, good attitudes. And this is what it says. And this was by a pastor, by Charles Swindoll. And some of you have read this, some of you might even have this hanging in your own home, but this is hanging up right here for me. And it says this. He said, "The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It's more important than the past, the education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a home. That's pretty impactful. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I'm convinced that life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our own attitudes. And I think this is important. When you think of the ABCs, attitude is so important for us as we think about this new year and we think about what we're doing here at the company at Juice Plus and what my role is and what I'm doing with my team. I sent them a challenge this at the end of this year saying, and in 2024, and I said, listen, I want to hear your goals. I want to hear what you're going to be doing with your teams. And I'm setting up a one-on-one with them right now this week to talk with them about this, to hear what they have to say, because I want to know what they're going to do. Attitude is so important. Now, I met with some leaders recently, and this was some of our top leaders. And I said, listen, I want to know what your goals for the new year are. I want to hear your challenge. And we even said, we're going to have a special trip for those who really go after it, and we're going to keep them accountable. Out of all the leaders that we were talking with, six responded and said, I'm ready to do this. And and I was shocked. I was like, you're kidding me. This is six wrote back and said, hey, here's my goals. Here's what's going to go on. The leaders, I sat down with all of these partners and six responded and said, hey, here's my challenge. Here's my jump to myself. Here are my goals. And I was like, wait a minute, what happened? Now, I was pretty frustrated. My attitude was not there and I knew that I needed to change it. I said, okay, well, wait, what happened? Maybe I didn't communicate well. Maybe we didn't do a good enough job there. Maybe we didn't make it as appealing as possible. And so I said, listen, Travis, you need to change your attitude and let's get with our sales team. Let's reach out there. And we started getting more submissions and people are like, no, I'm so sorry. I got to write in this. Now I could have said, forget it. We're not going to do this. But no, I knew that I needed to change my attitude. I knew that our team needed to change our attitude and say, listen, let's talk with the leaders. And like many of you, as you think about your own personal goals or working in your own business and your teams, what is your attitude for that day? Remember, I love this last portion of this quote. It says, I'm convinced that life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. Attitude. When you think about a New Year's resolution, about making it your best year ever, attitude has to play a key piece in this. Now, there's so many great trainings you're going to get to this series that Curt Beavers has put together. I think it's so important to have a positive attitude. But the number two thing that I think is important are the behaviors. A is attitude, B is behaviors. And what I mean by that is you can't go into a New Year's resolution or a goal or a challenge without having the right behaviors. I was talking with a group of leaders years ago and I was sitting down with them and I said, oftentimes when I sit down with people and I ask them in this industry, what is your goal? What is your financial goal? The most common number, that I hear when I travel around is 10,000 a month. If they could be making 10,000 a month in this industry, in this business, if they could be making this, they would just change their life. That reliable income that they could be earning here. And then what I asked them, well, what are the behaviors to get to? What are the behaviors and what are the goals here? And oftentimes when I sit down and I say, okay, here's the goal, but what are the behaviors? What are the habits, the traditions that you're going to be involved with to get there? Oftentimes they don't match. They're not even close. Here's the goal, here's the target, here's where they want to be and earning per month, and here's where they're at as far as their daily habits, their daily activities, as far as what they're doing. And oftentimes I'm like, you'll never get there. And then what happens is your attitude changes. Is you're frustrated. You're not going to be happy. It's always the company's fault, or this group is not doing this. This leader's not doing this. It's what are your activities and what is your goal? If your goal is $10,000 a month, maybe it's $5,000 a month, maybe it's $3,000, maybe it's $1,000 a month. That's okay. But what are your daily activities and your behaviors to get there? Now, I often tell people when I sit down with leaders that I've worked with personally on a one-on-one basis, I always say, listen, here's your goal. I always ask them, what is it that you want to accomplish? Maybe it's a financial goal, maybe it's something else. And I'm like, what's your behaviors? And what I always say is take a piece of paper, and I want you to write three columns. And the first column, I want you to title it, here's here's what I'm involved with. Here are my behaviors on a daily basis. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm doing right now. I want you to write everything that you're doing right now. I want you to write it all out. And so we sit down and we talk about the behaviors. And we talk about the things that they're doing right now, the activities, the behaviors that they're involved with. And then in column two, before I get into column two, I always say, write those out. Let's talk. Is that all you have? Okay, is that what you're involved with? And then column two is what you need in order to achieve that goal. What you need in order, and oftentimes they start writing out, I need more time, I need more coaching, I need more. Then they start writing out all of these other things. And then we go back to number one, the first column, and I'm saying, wait, you talked about all these behaviors, but this is what you need and you're trying to accomplish a goal, maybe we need to change things and say, okay, if this is what you need, maybe we need to put in these behaviors to say, hey, here's some things that I'm going to change. These are the things that I'm going to put into my daily activity. This is what I need in order for me to accomplish my goal. That number two column is so important. And then the third column, that third column is what I'm going to change, what I'm going to improve on. Now, it's a simple exercise. And as a leader, as a mentor, as somebody who's mentored me, they did the same thing with me. I said, okay, well, what are my behaviors today? What do I need? And then what am I going to change? What am I going to improve? These are my behaviors. And I think about this A for attitude, B for behaviors. For you, I want you to know that to have your best year ever, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as the ABCs. A for attitude, B for behaviors. Behaviors help drive this. If your goals are here, but your behaviors are down here, there's a mismatch. But if all of a sudden we start bringing this together, then we start to say we can achieve those goals. But you can't have this and not have this. You've got to start to change. What are you going to need and how are you going to change? What are the behaviors that you're going to improve on? Now, I would say the behaviors that really the example that for many of us, some of you are new, and this is shocking to me, but some of you who are watching this never really have met or had a conversation with our founder, Jay Martin. Some of you have had years, decades where you've been around Jay Martin. For me, I've met Jay Martin, but I've only had just a short window of Jay Martin. I've seen videos, I've watched him on these trainings and conferences. What I can tell you is when I think of our leader, our founder who started this company, he had an unbelievable attitude, and I'm sure he had unbelievable challenges, but yet he still had these attitudes. I hear stories in the office where Jay was walking down the hallway and he was always joking with people. He was telling jokes. He was always making fun of certain things and making fun of himself. He had an unbelievable attitude, but his behaviors, he was always in it. He was always there to help push people. He was always there for the company. What I loved about him is his behaviors, his daily activities were of a leader. And when I think about changing and making it your best year ever, behaviors is going to be important. And when you think about conference, I always love to go to our conferences. When Jay was up there on stage and I watch these videos and I see what he was doing, and then I get to experience the Juice Plus conferences and I see people, they come up to me and their attitude is so good. They're just like, you know what, I want to change the world. I think about conferences and when people are there and what they feel like. And some of you are already registered for San Diego. Some of you have said, well, maybe I'm not going to go this year. I always say, what is your attitude? What are the behaviors? What are you involved with on a daily basis? What do you need? And then what are you going to change? And I keep on saying conference can be one of those areas where it can help improve the behaviors. I want you to know that the ABCs, attitude and behaviors, are extremely important. And the C, as we move into attitude, behaviors, and C stands for commitment. And I always tell people, some of you have heard me share this before, but commitment, the definition of that is the ability to act on a decision long after the emotion of making that decision has passed. And I think this is so true. I learned this quote years ago from someone who was talking to leaders, and he was talking about this commitment. And it was the commitment that stopped people. It was the commitment to keep going. It was the commitment when you had a no. It was the commitment when things weren't working right. It was the commitment that you spend an extra hour and you're like, oh man, I'm never gonna, I'm so frustrated. I'm not gonna do this anymore. It's the commitment to keep going. It's the commitment of saying, hey, listen, I really wanted that goal. And I know that I have to change my behaviors, but it's the commitment to keep going because you're going to get knocked down. You're going to get, okay, push back up. It's the commitment to act on the decision. Once you said, yes, I'm going to do this, it's the commitment to act on it long after the emotion of making that decision has passed. Conference is a perfect example. Many of us get there, we leave there, we're on cloud 10 and we're like, oh, we're so excited about this. We're going to change it. We're writing our next 90-day goal. And then life happens 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month later, and you're like, oh, I don't know. A New Year's resolution, you're writing it down, and then you're like, oh, I don't know anymore. It's commitment. It's the ability to act on the emotion. It's the ability to act on a decision after the emotion of making that decision has passed. You don't give up. As we think about the ABCs, attitude, behaviors, and the commitment, I think we start to say, okay, well, wait a minute. I'm going to change. I'm going to improve myself. I'm going to change the things that I'm doing. You think about all of these things that are going on, and there are many stories that you think about, well, how do we do it? It's through the traditions, the habits, and making sure that you have the right attitudes, making sure you have the right behaviors, making sure that you have commitment to moving forward. I just want to say that this will be the best year ever. This will be your best year ever. I want to thank you for everything that you're involved with. Never give up. Never lose sight of what you're going after. I hope you have a great year in 2025. I believe we're going to thrive in 2025. We're going to come alive in 2025. This will be your best year ever. Attitude, behaviors, and commitment. All right, everyone. I hope you have a great year. Talk to you soon.